Well, how y'all are this afternoon? This is your buddy George Jones over at Bergen Gun Range with my next installment on adjusting the camera. Hey, I got this old used gun, and the old used gun I got today is this guy, the Harrington Richardson 922. Now the 922 is of the vintage of the pull pin. Pull the cylinder completely out and drop the cylinder out in your hand to reload. So I'm going to compare this gun to the other gun. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of H&R and a little bit about the history of the way H&R went about manufacturing guns. Now I've also got the old 930 over here. We're going to compare it to it. This gun was made in the mid-1950s. The grips are a dead giveaway. The grips are the old scrap plastic 10-aught grips, and they quit making those, about 1955, 56 along in there. So we got a pretty good understanding that this gun is a mid-1950s manufactured gun. The H&R is a very interesting gun. I like the H&R. I've always enjoyed the H&R guns. Even the ones that are kind of inexpensively made like this one. H&R was a company that was around from the 1880s all the way up to the 1980s, and late 1980s, early 1990s. And they were actually, people think of them as a Saturday night special or a cheap gun company. In reality, they were a very innovative company. Harrington Richardson was the first gun to have a trigger actuated safety device. You think about a trigger actuated safety like on an XD or a Glock or a Canic or something like that. You know, you think it's fairly new innovation within the last 20, 25 years, but actually H&R had trigger actuated safety devices in the 19-teens. And that is this little guy right here. This little mechanism that's behind the trigger. Instead of the trigger actuated safety being on the trigger, it's actually behind the trigger. And what this does is this makes this gun drop safe. Okay, so if you got it cocked and it falls to the ground, okay, and there's enough impact that the sear trips and allows the hammer to go forward, it won't fire. Okay, it goes to the hammer rebound position. Stops at quarter cock, you might call it. And that's because this piece wasn't depressed. This little guy right here. And that's a trigger actuated safety device. And that was one of the first real innovations of the Harrington Richardson company by design, was trigger actuated safety. Now, another thing that was the innovation of Harrington Richardson was the concept of the transfer bar. Now you look at this gun, this guy's got a fixed firing pin. So when you pull the trigger, it goes forward, goes past the rebound point, goes fully forward, protrudes up here from the battery face, fires that round. And then when you let go of it, the hammer comes back to rebound and stays. Now that's fairly safe, and Smith & Wesson revolvers were made that way for years, still are to a certain extent. Long about 1958 or 9, Harrington Richardson innovated the concept of this guy, the transfer bar. And the transfer bar, what it does is, when you pull that trigger, single action or double action, that transfer bar mechanically elevates up to a certain point and stops. Not quite completely covering the firing pin, okay? But when you pull the trigger, it goes fully up, covers the firing pin, hammer goes forward, strikes the firing pin through the transfer bar, and then when you let go of it, the transfer bar drops down, and you have this space between the hammer and the firing pin. That prevents the gun from firing when it's dropped. To my knowledge, Harrington Richardson was the first company to have that feature in their guns. Now, this gun was made in the 1980s. Okay, this was one of the last guns that they made, this configuration. Another thing that they did was Harrington Richardson made monoframe revolvers. Okay, so their entire frame was out of one piece of metal. It didn't have a side plate on it. So all of the parts went in through this way, and then everything went together. So you had a solid frame, you know, that you didn't have any danger of warping it or breaking it or anything like that, like you do on a Smith & Wesson revolver that has a big side plate on it. Ruger picked up that idea in the 1960s, and their first gun to use it was the Speedy, the Speed 6. Okay, so that was an innovation on their part. Another innovation that they had was they used really good materials and they used cheaper manufacturing processes. It didn't cost as much to make a side plate revolver frame as it did to make a mono frame. Okay, so you know, they could produce a little bit cheaper gun and still have high quality material and high quality specs on it. Now they did this for a while. This cylinder is the correct cylinder for this gun, okay? It is also the correct cylinder for the swing out model, and it's also the correct cylinder for the 999 Sportsman. So by making all three of the gun cylinders designed the same way, it cut down on a whole line of manufacturing. They could just manufacture that one cylinder and it fit all of their guns and work right. Just timed everything up to where it would work the same. And they did that for about 10 years, from about 1955 to about 1965. And manufacturing processes changed again, probably to be a little bit cheaper and still work. So the H&R is a really interesting gun, a really innovative gun to be as cheap as it is. So with all that having been said, we're going to shoot the old 65, 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015. We're going to shoot the old 74-year-old gun and see how it shoots. Now I've got a target sitting up out there at 7 yards, so we're going to shoot this guy at 7 yards. And then later I'm probably going to shoot it more. If I can hang on to him here. This guy holds 9 little bitty things. I got big old, I got 10 thumbs. You know. Down there like that. Got her all galoddened. It helps if you put the cylinder in from the right side. Okay. Then you take your pin, stick it back in there. Now this one doesn't have a release lever on it. It's just held on there with a detent in there. Okay, got that all loaded up. Let's give it a try here and see how it actually shootifies. See how it actually shootifies. 9 on double action at the old target dot. Let's see how it goes. And that's a hit. Right dead in the middle. Now I'll tell you something else. I've owned several of these guns over the years. And I've owned several Smith & Wesson kit guns. Now, do I have a kit gun now? No, I don't. That gun shoots good. That's a good shooting gun. Well, I skunked myself. I didn't shoot them all over to the left like I normally do. Put them guys out there like that. Lay that gun down over in the shades will cool off a little bit. Let's go down here and look at our marksmanship. See what our tactical accuracy or our accuracy looks like. and they're all in there. That's pretty good pinpoint marksmanship in a 4-inch 22 revolver, even if it is at 7 yards. We'll load up 9 more and see how we can do on the old steel plates down there at 7 yards, at 15 yards. Move this guy out of the way a little bit. Let's try some steels. Got this old boy out here. Let's see what it actually shoots like on 15 yards. Got some small hangers down there. Got some small steel targets and some large steel targets. We'll try it out. These are precision. They're slightly lubricated and hard to hang on to, but I like them pretty good. We're just loading her up. That's the problem. The only problem with an H&R revolver is it holds so much ammunition, it takes so long to get it reloaded. Okay. Take that back in there. This gun comes to us courtesy of our friends over at Central Kentucky Bushcraft. David and his wife started a nice little YouTube channel. I don't know if they have anything up or not, but they've created a little bit of content and they're getting ready to start posting. 10-inch diameter steel plate at 15 yards. That's a hit. That's pretty good. It's all right. Let's try a little 4-inch Mickey Mouse. There's a lot of them old pill weeds in the way that deflect the bullet, but we hit it. Hit it again. Oh, hit the ground that time. All right, let's try the old steel silhouette. What we got left. Dink. Dink. That's it. It's a 74-year-old tack driver. That's the thing. And it goes along with what I've always said. You know, if you've got a gun, even though it's an inexpensive gun, you take care of that guy, it'll last a lifetime or a couple of lifetimes. This belongs to the young man's daddy. I believe he said that his dad said that he bought it new. And we're talking about almost 75 years ago. And this gun is in perfect condition, and I think it's probably been shot 10 million times. You know. Just an outstanding little gun. And it comes a part of being able to grade out a used gun. That's another thing. You need to be able to grade out a used gun in order to be able to not get ripped off. Now, the value of this gun, when this gun sold new, it was probably $15, $14.99 at Western Auto or something like that. In today's market, this gun is somewhere around $175, $80, maybe even $200. This gun is worth it because it performs as good as a $600 gun and is in perfect mechanical condition. The 10-8 grips may have started to recede a little bit, but not much. But the grips aren't busted. It doesn't have any rust on it, and it works perfectly. Doesn't have any roll by. It locks up good. You know, things you need to look for when you're looking at a used gun to buy it. And it's just it's a very nice little gun and a good performer. Well, that's about the size of it. Like a Tate, share a fi, commentate, and subscribe. Leave me an old $1 in the Patreon bucket on the way out the door if you take a notion to it. If you don't, that's fine. I'll keep making content for you. I'm going to shoot a little bit more. We're going to close Bergen Range. We like to shut down the Bergen Range at 5 o'clock on Sunday, and that's where we're at. All right then, we'll see y'all when we see you.